Okay, thank you guys. I hope, I'm gonna help you. Was a great, clinic, from Dusan and, the other lectures. I really appreciate, being here with you guys. One thing, before I start with my topic, I have to tell you, this gym, particularly this gym, wakes up, a lot of positive emotions, for me. Why? Some days ago was the 30 years of, being European champion, in this gym, of course, with the different floor, but a lot of, love and passion from all, people who watch us, Serbians knows this, was a great time, being here after the game celebration. Belgrade celebration was amazing, maybe one of the most, the best memories in my personal life. Second thing is, the second, 98, also I was a world champion with my team. So, 2 gold medals, here. I hope I will get a gold medal from you guys, giving you experience, what I can give you now, from this topic, So from this period of 30 years ago, till now, more or less people talk the same thing, here, but everything changed. If I can say, the hell of the preparations we have, all this period, killed my knees, but didn't kill my, will, to compete and actually, to win all those, important, things in my life. Preparations, comparing methodics, comparing with the nowadays, the way you practice, approach, to the people, it's completely different, from what I went through, here. I said, joking, if I would give, what the people did to me, which was physical and mental abuse, probably I would be 1-week coach nowadays. But okay, makes me again, proud, when you do the job, on a maximum level. So I'm really happy, after all, to go through this, hard times, and become, as a, good as a player, and later on as a coach. For you guys, again, the main, maybe advice, out of this, you should know that even 30 years ago, I knew that I'm going to be a coach. So, I note, all practices. After each practice, so I get, Olympic cycles, World Cup, cycluses, here. If the groups, were shared in a two, courts, centers were dealing here, guards there, I was always asking and writing down again what the centers was doing. So, helps me a lot, but when I start to be a coach, I had to have, first, great people who helped me and a lot of adjustments, through the years. Now I'm, as a 20 years, being a coach, I can say that the 2 years, from the 2 years, ago till now, I changed a lot, here. Even the playbook I usually have, some years ago, it's completely different. Now, when I didn't have a job, for a while, I could, also study the game, analyzing, through EuroLeague, which is the main, let's say, focus. I watch also a little bit of NBA, and, between this, I found out some stuff, which could be important, to give you. What I think, is very important, to practice. My topic today, defensive tendencies in practice, always, open a million subjects, probably, it's going to be a million questions, I will tell you what I was focused on. Talking about what to practice, I heard, one sentence, like very loud, and it's very good. Practice the things, like which are facing the most, like here. So, okay, what are the most things, like you are facing? Like what are the situations you should, like give, like the guys, like as a core to win the games. So I will give you some options. Also, the way I think, like about, different situations. Honestly, I cannot go to all details, but I think, like this is all about, like nowadays basketball, like also NBA and EuroLeague, because first of all, you don't have a time, for practice. Those things, like which Dusan says, amazing. Sometimes I miss, fundamentals to practice, but it's quite impossible. So, like those things are very important, but, like you have to reduce, like in order to have, like let's say, things which you defend or which you insist, like the most, and which on the end, will make, the difference from my side. So what you should practice, like the first thing, like the first, question you have to answer, like is what team you have. Usually, okay, nowadays even the coaches deciding, like about recruitment, and sometimes not, here. But you have to deal with this, what you can actually give the guys individual and as a team. So going through this, like this is, like really important, like also to understand, like what kind of defense you can give, to one or the other guy. Center, like here maybe is not the switch player, like, or, like is not the best hedge player. So you have to adjust, like on million things. But of course, like this adjustment, like you have to have, like when you really know, like the whole roster, okay? So the second thing is knowing the league. We talk about the league, like EuroLeague has, let's say, less possession, so slower pace. EuroLeague, I'm talking about, final four teams, like here, so less possessions, like here, more organization. In NBA is opposite, here, so you have more, like possessions, here, because, like you also have certain not controlled shots, like here, and of course, like a lot of, like depends from offensive rebound. The next thing is, like what are the tendencies, like now, like I believe, like I heard people are talking here, like, and I'm quite sure, like what is the terminology of modern basketball or, like future basketball, whatever. Like it really depends a lot, from isolation, a lot of isolations, much more, like it's gonna come. Like this is the first thing, people have to understand, like here. So isolation, like here, offensive rebound, and really fast-paced, game. So, like even though, like from my side, like there is need to be a balance between this one and the other type of game, like you have to practice both in order to have, certain success, when you face, like certain team who play that kind of basketball. So those are the three things, like more or less, which are really important, for me. How to practice, like here. How to practice, okay. Heard yesterday, Sharas was talking about the details and how much you have to insist on those. Sometimes I really do hate myself, like, because with the purpose I come to the practice and then I said, I'm gonna correct each detail on the game, which I don't like. It becomes, like that I lose completely the fluidity of practice. So it's completely, like, because if you stop everything, you make people nervous, like here, but you got your point. Then the second day, it comes, conditional coach and says, man, we have to run. Like said, how to run. and to have, you know, like the high criteria of, you know, like the details. It's always a question, you know. So, you know, sometimes, you know, like you also have to go through this and play with the mistakes. You know, players, you know, like doesn't like this, and usually they could say, let us play, you know, like here, this is not the model of the game. I can agree with this, you know, like in partly, you know, like here, first you have to know where you go or what you do, you know, like here, so you have to have a purpose. But the most important thing is, you know, like, of course, you know, like to have certain flows, you know, like which are maybe not with the best pacing, maybe with some, you know, like out of, you know, control shot. But this is the, you know, the game, or this is the shots you have to accept. Especially I like, you know, like those to take, you know, like the best shooters, the guys who makes the difference, you know, like in nowadays. So the third thing is, you know, like giving the model of the game of time and result. Honestly, in this part, you know, I think, you know, I don't do much, you know, like here. So, you know, giving the certain result and etc. Still, you know, like you have to give informations about special, you know, situations, if it's a sideline, if it's a full court. But, you know, like even practicing this too much, you know, like you have so many things, you know, like here. This could make the difference. I think, you know, I should do more. You know, like, so in the future, maybe, you know, like end of the practices I will do, you know, like maybe not always with the time, but what defense, you know, I would face, you know, like in those special situations, you know, like to even, to practice more. So those are the most important things, you know, like here with all of us are talking about, you know, like simplifying the things, you know, like having the people, you know, like pretty fast, you know, like on the same page. On a defensive end, you can definitely react, you know, faster. You can impact the defense, you know, like in a shorter period, rather than offense where you have, you know, like the talented guys, you know, who should make the difference, you know, like for you. So, you know, like in some moments, you know, like you get out of the box and make them, you know, do the job, you know, like here, whatever, you know, like it was also in Monaco, you know, like with me, you know, being coach there. You know, like there are, I mean, another good sentence I heard, you know, like, and which is also very motivating, you know, like to know where I want to go. And then, you know, like the people says, what is the rule of communication? You know, like here, the rule of communication, there are 7, 38, and 55. I don't know if you heard of this, you know, like here, but the thing is, you know, like here, 55% is a body language. So everything what you do, you know, like with your activity, you know, like with the team spirit, you know, like working together, you know, like helping each other, you know, like hustling for each ball, huddling up, you know, like on a difficult, you know, like let's say periods or turnovers, or if somebody fall down. So it's body language, you know, like 55, it's a big percentage, you know. So 38, you know, like is how loud are you? So, you know, like also, it's very clear that if you talk loud, you're gonna move, you know, like faster. So, you know, how loud you are, and so you always, when you do any kind of drill, you emphasize this, you know, to be loud, you know, like, and, you know, like, to be in a stance, those things, you know, like, you should always. And the last thing is 7% of what you are saying. So can you imagine, you know, like, in all this, ending up, you know, with 7%, you know, like, teaching points, something which is, okay, important, you know, like here, but it's always a question, you know, how many details you want to teach. You know, like to be, you know, like again, successful, you know, like et cetera, that, you know, those guys can really accept you. The next thing is implant, you know, like in any drill, you have, you know, like aggressiveness. You know, I think, you know, I heard this, you know, very well, you know, one time, when no matter what character you have, you can still practice aggressiveness. So, make the people, I think, like a lot of starts from the coach. Like if you show, like certain, let's say, presence, like in the practice first, on the, like there, like here, people will follow. You need your, like, okay, leading players who should do this, like here for you, because, like you don't want, like to jump all the time, like in almost 100 games. So you have to have leaders, who are doing this, who are leading with example and their presence, like here. So this is, hard to find, like, and it's even harder. The last thing is, like, what are your top 3 things, which, okay, basic principles, objectives, what you want, like, again, if you want, like to shorten, like the informations, like, and to go to the core. First, non-negotiable rules are being aggressive, like on the ball, on the passes. Okay, this is the first thing, like, and when you don't have this, stop the practice, do it, one more time. Okay? Like another which is okay, like I think it's not a big philosophy because everybody is telling the same stories. You don't want pain points. Like if it's happening, like in a fast break, in any system like you play, like you don't allow, any pain points. With this you stop and play one more time. Okay, if it's the practice like this. And the third thing is, okay, Dusan was talking about, like aggressive rebound. I know that, like also my teams were always doing this, like great. You're gonna have, like good habits, like a good routine, like which, like will reflect, in the game. So do this, like every time you can, like here, and then later you don't have a problem. You want to give a confidence with this aggressive offensive rebounds, like to your shooters, and it's, like even the less shooters, like here, I can definitely say, no matter how it sounds, like here, Paris is not a great shooting team, but they still have a second chance, like here, which they use, like again, like less thinking, forget about, what was happening, like here, and going, to the next move, which is also a good philosophy. So, like short-term memory mistakes, you don't think about this, you just go to the next action. Let's score, like in a fast break, and this is, like simple philosophy. I will give you some actions, some situations which I, let's say, like, like here. Let's start, like first with setting the tone, like I said, like the drill. It's more or less like a fun, drill. You cannot be just demanding, like, like thinking about, executing the tactic, like very well, like here. Sometimes you have to give your players a certain, like joy, I would say. Even though before I didn't, like accept this too much because I didn't smile. Most of the people didn't smile, here, because it's not good to smile on the court. It's good, like to be, focused and, to score. Of course, even this part, like you have to stop doing, like here, because still these guys has to come, like 90 and plus games, like here, still have a good time. Okay, so, like I change even this part. Okay, setting the tone, like there are some, like simple principles, like talking about, like how aggressive you want to be, set the tone, like here, every time, like let's go, like you go to there, yes. I choose, like one thing, but you can always do the set plays, like here, and do this, like as a fun. The rule is very simple. You have 6 passes, 1 point. Okay, 6 passes, 1 point. 1 dribble and score, like is 1 point. Okay, so what I want, like here, I want, like again, like offensively, I want in a red zone to catch. Now this is not happening. I'm killing, here. Backdoor is possible, like here, or handoff situations, which we are also breaking. We count, so 6, no offensive rebound now. okay? Same